morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 431 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Skidoo-bidoo-gidoo-bidoo-ba-da. Yeah. Today, recording day, is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024, and it's going to be a beautiful day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. I have a packed show for you today, but before we do anything else, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Well, good morning, Mr. Beaver. Mental health-wise, I believe it's good, actually. Admittedly, yesterday it kind of went sideways on me. Not mental health-wise, physical health-wise. We finished the show, and I did a bunch of editing work that I had planned. And my day was kind of scheduled so that I'd be editing all day to get it all done and get everything caught up. And I did get a lot done. I got shows posted. I got some other edits done. I had some downloads to do, and technical production work stuff. And at one point, Bridget was like, why don't you come here, grab a bite to eat? I'm like, yes, that's an excellent idea. I'll grab a bite to eat. So I sat down on the couch, had a bite to eat, and said, I need to lie down for a few minutes. And got hit with a sledgehammer of a migraine that had me basically incapacitated for about two and a half hours. And then when I woke up again, I was like just trying to meditate out of it, anyway, and get up off the couch, and it's like, I'm not doing good. Not doing good at all. So then I took Lola out for a walk, and I came back, and I had to lie down again. And I don't know where it came from. Some reason this migraine just came right out of nowhere, like a sledgehammer to the forehead. So my day went sideways, but I did get some work done, but it looks like I'll be doing some more work today. My idea, again, yesterday was get everything out of the way on Monday. I got the rest of my vacation to just chill out.
Gotcha.
So, sometimes life gives you other plans.
Yeah, indeed. I had a better day yesterday because I've been in a funk. So yesterday was a better day up until like last evening, like around 8 or 9 o'clock. And then we started talking about a meeting that we have to go to today, which is like to finalize the last project, which is, it's been a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly looking forward to this meeting because it's the one where we settle the bill.
Right.
And we were invited to meet our contractor at their office to do this. So I have a feeling that we might be getting news of something extra, which will definitely cause my Beaver Sweetie to go through the roof. Okay. So I'm getting ready for a storm. Hopefully it'll just be, here's the bill, and everybody will go, oh, well, that looks kind of reasonable or kind of close to what we discussed, and we'll just sign, and that will be all there is. Fingers crossed. But yes, that's what's going on for me today. Once that meeting's over, I'm going to have a huge weight off from my shoulders, and hopefully things will be better. But yeah, I keep on saying, it's been heavy the last since about June 27th in particular, a little bit before, but the accident really put things on steroids here.
Well, here's a little thing to help break that up. It's, me post panic. Floating down the Bow River in Calgary in a Speedo. I'm not floating in the photo. I'm just standing in a park in downtown Calgary, post float, in a Speedo.
I like the building behind you has like vegetation all over on it.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's right near that's right near the Peace Bridge. For those of you who are curious, it's very close to the Peace Bridge.
Yeah. So, Kit Argosy goes, let's hope the worry is worse than the reality. Yes, that's indeed. That's indeed. I keep on.
Usually that's the case.
Right? Well, yes, and that's why I keep on. My Beaver sweetie and I have been together for 12 years, and I keep on trying to teach him the lessons. Like, do not start worrying until you know for a fact that you have something to worry about.
Yeah, do not.
But
don't panic until it's time to panic, right?
My sweetie likes to pre-worry. And as he figures, well, if I pre-worry, I can spot the problems and I can pre-solve them. Yes, but you also pre-solve hundreds of problems that never arise.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah.
Oh, but yep, different hardwiring.
We all different.
If we were all the same, we'd get bored of talking to each other. So, as the song goes, groovy aardvark, is it?
I don't know.
If everybody thought the same, we'd get tired of talking to each other. Never heard it. Or something like that. I think groovy aardvark. I think it's called. Look it up. It's a real song.
So I have to. So I was in Edmonton, as you know, and met up with Army Chris and Locker.
Yes.
And I was walking back to my Airbnb, which is another story in and of itself. And I went to grab a Prime because I was dying of thirst because it was super hot the whole time I was there. And I pulled my phone out to pay, and my phone went flying out of my pocket and landed on its back. And still did that.
Oh.
Yeah. When it landed on its
that's quite an impact.
Yeah. And I mean, I've dropped this hundreds of times.
Right. It must have fallen just right on something, just hard enough from just high enough, or.
Well, it landed on its back. Now, it probably didn't land flat. I think it must have landed at enough of an angle to do that. But I was like, well, damn it.
Oh, that sucks.
So, and Army Chris is like, well, you can get that fixed in the mall for like $50. I go, yeah. And I went to do it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait because I think I'm due for a renewal. It's 2 years old. And I checked my thing, and it's like, yeah, you're up for renewal on the 26th of July, which is like, what, 3 days from now? So,
yeah. It's funny. It's like,
do I get it fixed, or do I just, you know what I might do? Like, I'll probably just get a new phone. And I'll probably get this one fixed and keep it, because I always keep my phones as a backup, a secondary backup, because you never know, right? Things go sideways, whatever.
Yeah.
I have a few of them here. This is another one. Yeah. There's another one right here, which, by the way, you can also double these as cameras, right?
Right. Exactly.
So
this was the one I had before, and was something similar. It happened to just fall right on the corner. Like this, and of course it fell right on the corner, of course, where the camera thing is, right? So every picture I took was blurry or had like groovy disco light effects. But it was the same thing. I had about like a month left, so I got this one at the beginning of start school. But this one, because it does still work, it's really good because I play podcasts on this,
right? And
then I set the text to voice on this, so now I don't have to transcribe everything by hand.
Oh, that makes sense.
I can just copy and then I can just edit down, which is great. The only problem is that for some reason, the speech to text keeps on adding the words "oh" and "by" everywhere every time I move a little.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about.
Or breathe or something. Like if I go, it interprets it as "by" or "oh," and that puts randomly.
Is it from Newfoundland? Is your phone from Newfoundland? Yes, bye.
I don't know. It's really weird. So, and of course, right, when different people speak differently, so sometimes like words get cut off, or like they say one word and it's wrong, or and becomes in, and then I'm like, I'm rereading and I'm going, this sentence doesn't make any sense. So then I have to go and find it again. Oh, that's what they said. How the hell did you transcribe that?
That happens a lot. Well, I've got like a Pixel 2a, a Pixel 4a. This is a Pixel 6a. I'll probably get the 8a because it's Canadian.
8a?
I have an iPhone 14, or is it a 15? I don't know. It's the red version. I get that from work, and it's it's okay. It's reasonable. But I find for my everyday stuff, I find the Pixel better.
Yeah,
and I'll leave it at that. Now, and this is all run on a Mac.
Yeah,
this show. When I'm in the studio, it's on a Mac, and when I'm on the road, it's a Windows box.
Right.
So everything can work as you want it to. But I highly recommend a Mac Mini for studio work,
right?
Because it just works so darn well. And when it comes to editing video, I'll never go back to doing it on a Windows box. Never, because the amount of time you spend on a Windows machine, even the Microsoft Studio, the Surface Studio, which is a big machine, very expensive, $5,000 or $6,000, it's still not as smooth or as simple as doing it on an $800 Mac. And I was blown away by that. So that's just a piece of advice for those of you, if you're looking at doing video editing. I had that conversation with Army Chris when I was in Edmonton. He goes, the difference is night and day. And I'm like, it is. It truly, truly is night and day.
All right.
And I'm not a big fan of Apple and the way they run their company, but I got to give them credit for the Mac Mini. It's quite something.
All right, Kids and Cubs, moving to the news. Yesterday, I wanted to give a little wildfire report, but we decided that was enough show.
Yeah, so, and we got some bad stuff happening right now. Jasper has been evacuated.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give a little rundown on what there is that happened. It might be slightly out of order because this is information like from the 19th all the way to today. From the Pacific coast to the Atlantic, there are hundreds, and when I say hundreds, it's not like just 2 or 3. There are hundreds of wildfires burning across Canada. I think there are 350 in Alberta alone right now. So when I say hundreds, they're in more than one province and territory.
I think there's 883 in total.
Something like that. It's a ridiculous number. Those fires have already forced thousands of people to evacuate from their communities, while the threat of evacuations hang over 1,000 more, and that was from earlier, so more have been enacted since. Much of Western Canada was under some type of heat warning. In British Columbia, weather conditions going into the weekend were hampering firefighting efforts. Evacuation orders and alerts had more than 2,000 people on the edge. The one that we heard about most of the weekend was the Shetland Creek fire, which at the time was over 13,000 hectares, which is nearly as big as the city of Vancouver, and burning out of control and really dangerously close to the village of Ashcroft in the interior of British Columbia. Barbara Roden, who's the mayor, said, quote, "Everyone is stressing that we're on evacuation alert, and that is just out of an excessive caution." That was Friday, so that people can take that time to be prepared. It's like insurance. You hope you never have to take advantage of it. In the communities along the Trans-Canada Highway, BC Wildfire Service Information Officer Emily Peacock said that there were more than 320 active wildfires then on Friday. With ongoing heat warnings in effect over much of BC's interior, she says, conditions were expected to get worse. Quote, 88% of those are lightning caused, and what we saw was thunderstorms just really starting to move into our interior regions in the Kootenays. So that happened over the weekend. All of the thunder showers are landing in really hot and dry forest fuel conditions, she said. There are 3 major wildfires at the time on Friday out of all of them, and they were located in the southern half of the province. Those who weren't fearing flames were fearing smoke because the air quality index has gotten really poor, particularly in northern Alberta. There was haze and poor air quality warnings, and they were in effect as far south as Edmonton over the weekend, which prompted officials in Edmonton to distribute N95 masks at city facilities that were open on the weekend, including pools and recreation centers. I've heard no reports of people rushing those centers and starting to protest masks. Just saying. I've heard no reports of them. So apparently masks for wildfires doesn't trigger people as much as masks for, killer viruses that are airborne. Or it would seem, or they were too busy packing to evacuate to, show up for a protest. Christy Tucker from Alberta Wildlife said that there were 155 active wildfires in the province at that time, and that 1/3 were considered out of control. She said that weather was the biggest challenge there as well. Quote, "Well, we're in the middle of a prolonged heat wave here in Alberta, so over the past week, we've seen extreme activity on some of the wildfires burning in the province, and we've seen a lot of new fires start. It's for us to get so many fires when we have green leaves on the trees and grasses, because having that moisture tends to cut down on wildfire activities. And they're getting the fires anyway."
Yeah.
Alberta Emergency Management Agency says the fires have forced more than 1,000 people at that time in northern Alberta out of their homes. Again, plummeting air quality was seen across all parts of Western Canada as things got worse. There were more intense heats, more lightning strikes. Up in Little Red River Cree Nation, Chief Conroy Siwapikimaham said that this time last year, he had ordered one of his 3 communities in northern Alberta to evacuate, and that fire just destroyed 100 homes at the time. This year, the fire bigger than the size of Edmonton in that region and growing, threatens the main highways. So on Saturday, everyone was told to leave. There was only one road to get in and out of the area, so the chief asked all 7,000 people to be cautious. Quote, "That's one of Alberta's longest unpaved highways. It's all dirt road, but the biggest danger we have, as well as having all of that dust kicking up, because you get fire and swirls and whatnot. And if it's a dirt road and you can't see in front of you, it makes getting out a little more difficult." Alberta officials blame an uptick on fires on a relentless heat wave. They say 40% of all wildfires this year in Alberta started this month. So when we said we had a pretty docile start to the season, but then I think we showed you that. I'm not sure if we've had a chance to show you that map, because I don't know if you were away that day, but there was a map of Alberta just before these ones all popped up that showed how dry everything was. And basically, like, red was the most dry. And basically all of the province was like one shade of like really deep red or slightly less deep red. It was very dry.
Bad.
Everybody knew that this was coming about like a week before it popped, just by how dry everything was. Out on the East Coast, there was some good news, as evacuation orders for Labrador City were partially lifted early on the weekend. Andrew Furey, the premier, said, "Over the last few days, we've been fortunate enough to have boots on the ground combined with the good weather." Furey said the week-long evacuation would be partly lifted early in the weekend to first allow first responders, healthcare workers, and grocery workers to come in to set things up for everybody else coming, with a full lifting of the order on the weekend was planned for yesterday at noon, and I think it did, in fact, go into effect. Wildfires back in Western Canada. Fires are threatening homes and roads in northern Alberta. The emergency management team of the province said 7,500 people have been forced to evacuate this past week. There were people escaping from Grande Prairie First Nation. That's one of the 3 communities in Little Red River Cree Nation that I was talking about before. Last year, one of the communities was forced to fire. This year, all 3 of the communities there have had to evacuate. So that's, they got hit last year and they're getting hit even worse this year. People that left the nation, those that were able to get a room, those who weren't able to get a room, I should say, slept in their vehicles overnight with the AC cranked. It was a real situation trying to decide whether or not, because it was so hot, you sleep with the window open and let the smoke in, or and like I said, when you're evacuating, not necessarily everyone has AC.
Well, the thing that makes that part of the country different than where we reside is that at night the temperature does drop significantly.
Yes.
So, the daytime it might be 36, 37, but it will drop to like 10 or 8 overnight. But again, open the window so you get the fresh air, except the fresh air is smoke. So
yeah, exactly. Now, where smoke in some places is a nuisance because, you can't breathe and whatnot. In other places, the smoke ended up helping crews make headways in fires, like in a northern hamlet in Alberta, about 70 kilometers from Fort McMurray. There, the smoke actually did help dampen things. Again, Christy Tucker from Alberta Wildfire in a later update said, quote, all of our priority fires have been positively affected by the smoke cover, providing a bit more humidity and a bit lower temperature, which helps reduce the fire activity. But things might get worse for the northernmost fire in the province, with expected wind shifts today affecting the fire so much that a fire behavior advisory had been sent out over the weekend. That's really a warning, according to the CBC, to firefighters and to the crews who are out there, that they could see significant changes in behavior, and you could see more extreme fire behavior. Other provinces have sent help to Alberta to fight the recent uptick in fires. Alberta is also putting out international calls to start. 55 firefighters and staff arrived from other places in Sunday, and they'll stay for a month-long deployment. At this time, that's what it's determined, all across Alberta, fighting fires and dangerous conditions. Let's see, what else do we have? In the District of Wells, North Central British Columbia, Mayor Ed Coldman said that hundreds have been ordered to leave, including residents and tourists in the historic gold rush town of Bakerville. There, the winds were erratic. He said, we've got to keep people safe, so we've got to get them out of here. In the southern interior of British Columbia, there was another 2,000 people on evacuation alert, prepared to leave at a moment's notice. And then, as we mentioned, in northern Alberta, 7,500 had been ordered away. That is pretty bad. Let's see, what else do we have? In the town of McBride, BC, Mayor Eugene Runts, that community is about 2 hours east of Prince George, says that wildfires had 50 homes under evacuation alert. The number of fires in BC over the weekend grew to about 300, because earlier on the weekend it was like in the 100s. Billy Joe Moberly, who's at the Grande Prairie First Nation, said was able to escape the flames, but he said, quote, there's a real strong smell of smoke. You can barely breathe, like they're literally in the fire. That's how it feels. Yeah. So that is pretty scary. There were some storms mentioned in the weather forecast coming later on the weekend that could potentially provide some relief, but they could also bring lightning strikes. So they were viewed as a mixed blessing. In Labrador City, the evacuation order, as I mentioned, was indeed lifted, and people were able to start to return home at noon local time. And it seems that the town, fortunately, did not suffer any damage, even though the fire had gotten within 4 kilometers of it. And I believe that is all I have for the wildfire updates. I have not heard much more about anything being offered by the government for Hurricane Beryl. The only thing I had heard of is in Labrador City for the fires, that the government of Newfoundland and Labrador had offered $1,000 payments, emergency payments per household that had to evacuate. But I haven't heard anything similar about any of the other things that have hit yet. So I don't know if that's still being organized or anything, but I just haven't. They may have happened because there's so much going on. It's hard for to hear everything on the news, but so far I haven't heard of them. All right, kids and cubs. So that's that for that. A couple of other tiny bits of news. Stephen McKinnon was sworn in as the new Minister of Labour and Seniors to replace Seamus O'Regan. McKinnon had paid tribute to his predecessor and saying that it will probably be business as usual. Quote, my first priority is that the federal government will be a facilitator to parties in collective bargaining to make sure that they get a deal. We know, and Seamus was fond of saying, the best deals are achieved at the table. That philosophy will not change, said McKinnon. So there we go. McKinnon had been serving as the interim House leader to take over for Karina Gould, who was away on a maternity leave, but she will be returning soon, if not already, which is why I guess the Prime Minister decided to make this the smallest shuffle possible, just taking the guy that was in a temporary position and now making him a permanent minister, as the person that had the initial position is coming back from maternity leave. And that's it.
Okay.
So the smallest shuffle possible. There have been people that have sort of been decrying this as a missed opportunity to put a fresh face on things, whatnot. But I have a feeling that if he's going to do a bigger shuffle, it's going to be after he goes around and asks everyone. Are you running next election? Because if you're not, and in your minister's seat, like Seamus O'Regan did, you need to step down so I can put someone out and in there so that people can see them, in the job for a year or so, right? It's a typical thing. That's usually described by the hyper-partisans of the other side as rats leaving the sinking ship, by the way, in political speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
True, very true.
It's a common thing. The LCBO strike is also over. It seems that negotiations, let's just put it this way. Doug Ford was trying to make some political capital off bashing the union. And at first it seemed that they had a deal, and then it seemed that, but at least the Doug Ford side was making the claim that the union was trying to get some compensation on yet one more thing. And they turned around and says, oh, we've already said that we're willing to concede this point so long as we do this other thing. So apparently there was a deal, and it seems that Doug Ford spent most of the weekend lying.
Of course, because that's what Doug Ford does.
About the deal before ultimately signing.
I have some breaking news.
Okay. Ooh.
This just in from our friend Devin Heroux in Paris, France. Came in about a moment ago. There are multiple reports, videos, and photos that have surfaced within the last hour showing Céline Dion arriving in Paris.
Yes.
The rumor is she's going to be performing.
Céline!
So this might be happening.
Oh, God, I hope so. She has to be good on the day.
Yeah.
Of course, because every day is completely different. But, listen, I have not seen the documentary yet, and I do want to watch it. Apparently,
I haven't watched it yet.
Exceptional, apparently, according to the ratings. But I remember seeing an interview with her like this, and it's the best way I can describe it is
heartbreaking.
Yes, but the best way I can think about it is this, and I can really relate to this because I was a dance student, and then I busted up my leg, right? And all I was going to be was a dancer. I had no plan B. But singing is the thing she loves most in the world to do. She lives for this. She lives for being on stage. She lives for her public.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the artists that has the best relationships with her fans. And she's not been able to do the thing that she loves for the longest time. And here, the biggest possible stage in the world.
Yeah.
And she might get to grace it.
Well,
and she'll probably be singing in French.
En français et anglais. She'll do both.
Yeah. So, and remember, she did sing The Power of the Dream at an Olympics before, so this would not be the first time.
Was that 96?
I think that was 96 Atlanta. Yeah, I think so.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the 100th anniversary, which wasn't in Athens for some reason. That was the next one's.
Because it's the way that the cycle works and the way money works and the way American network television said, no, we're having it here.
Yeah.
It's what it boils down to. Literally, there is an agreement with the American television networks where every second or third Olympics will happen in the United States. Just because they don't want to spend all the money that they have to spend to send a crew to another part of the world. Yeah. And you do have to remember, too.
And our time zone is one of the most lucratives in the entire world.
That's where I was going. It's the time zone thing, right? Which is why they want to keep it in North America. I understand it. Look, it's money. The Olympics are all about money in the end. For me, it's the sport and the athletes, but when it boils down to it, it's about money. As Devin said in the interview we had with him recently about how, he said the river Seine is not ready. Athletes are going to get sick. He says, but they'll have a first, second, and third place, and did the Olympic movement. That's all that matters.
Yeah. I don't think you were there that day when I was mentioning it, but the mayor did jump in the thing.
I saw that.
Swim. Yeah. So there you go.
I wonder how many antibiotics she had to take after that.
Yeah. So taking a very, 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 very long shower.
Yeah.
I would
There's another
assume.
story I thought I'd just mention. We don't have to dwell on it, but I thought I'd just mention it to you. It's Elon Musk. He explains why he set out to destroy the woke mind virus. He says he lost his son Xavier to the virus, and his son Xavier is dead. Xavier is 20 and has transitioned to a female, Vivian, and is not physically dead. Yeah.
Okay, so he couldn't cope with the fact that he has a transgender child.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's set to destroy all of democracy.
Yeah.
And Danielle Smith thinks that all the kids will be fine.
Yeah.
With her gender policy. All parents love their children, would never do anything.
Here's a prime example of why that's bullshit.
Describing his own child as dead. Dead.
And he's saying it's the woke mind virus that did it. No. Your child was born in the wrong body. That's how your child feels. There are a lot of people around the world like that. They've always been here. They're not going anywhere.
Idiots. In the news report that Canada's premiers say they have a big worry over public safety and how it ties to the future of the RCMP. When the premiers got together, they said that they had questions. Basically, where are the Mounties? Because they got money to pay for the officers, but they don't have the officers due to under staffing. David Eby says the federal government needs to handle the staffing crisis from the RCMP to fill those vacancies to ensure public safety for British Columbians. What he's saying, you can tell he's got an election coming. He keeps he's starting to run against the federal government on pretty much everything here. And David Eby is not doing so well because that whole box suite Danny scandal about her plane tickets and box suites and whatnot. He was there too.
Yeah,
she invited him too. So but we'll get to that later. That's a whole other story. But just to say that he's got some stuff going on. So there's a reason that all of a sudden he's running against the federal government. This is not a coincidence here. But it is true that the RCMP has struggled to recruit in recent years, leaving policing jobs unfilled across the country. Some jurisdictions have reported vacancy rates in excess of 50%. So Danielle Smith, quote, unfortunately, we pay for 1,900 well, that's not wrong. Well, that's wrong. Sorry, it says 19,111 RCMP officers, and that's wrong. Unfortunately, we pay for RCMP officers, and we have over 400 vacancies in Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith. She said that our province had to start looking at alternatives like sheriffs. Of course. Just like Arizona. She really is trying to turn Alberta into the States. I swear to God. She said the RCMP's vacancy crunch is a public safety issue. Quote, we just simply can't allow for those holes to go unfilled. That is true. The president of the RCMP's union, Brian Sobey, said his applications are starting to tick upwards, but he says it will take a while before there's enough officers to fulfill all the RCMP's mandate. He suggests that it will take about 3 years at least before they end up in a moderately nice position where the provinces and territories sign an agreement X number of years, and the next one expires in 2030, and then they renew that contract for the services because in Ontario and Quebec, we actually have provincial police services, but in the other provinces, they basically hire the RCMP.
As does Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Royal Newfoundland Constabulary.
Yeah, exactly.
They only, is it in the last 30 years, they started to carry guns? They didn't used to carry guns.
Mm-hmm.
And they hated the idea that they had to start carrying guns because it took away from the tradition. But they're like, well, modern times call for modern solutions to modern problems, I guess. But, it's kind of like the Bobbies in the UK hated carrying guns. They do now, but they didn't want to do it. And I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why.
Yeah.
But, there you are. Modern times, modern problems.
So this leads to something else because there's not enough RCMP. Not only is there public safety that is compromised, but the safety as well of our elected officials.
And the Bonzi show here says, fun fact, Canada does have sheriffs. And this I do know of. I learned about this about 30 years ago. No, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. I didn't know sheriffs were a thing. Sheriffs are a thing. It's quite common, but sheriffs here are used differently than in the U.S.
Yes.
Oftentimes sheriffs have to use with securing chattel when it comes to bankruptcies or seizures of property or products or whatever the case may be. Their role is quite different than that of a sheriff in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if that's what she's envisioning here in order to replace RCMP because it's higher level, right?
Yeah, it's tough to say.
Yeah. But...
Oh, and one other thing, too. New Brunswick has the New Brunswick Highway Patrol.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, NBHP. They've been around for, oh, God, I don't know how long. A very long time.
Okay. See, that part I did not know at all. Yeah. This story from Global came out. Alberta men charged with threatening to kill Prime Minister and other federal politicians. Finally, people are being charged. Now, somebody wrote about this. The journalist is Kaylee Gibson. And other journalists wrote about this, and they received some criticism online. Says, well, why is it only Alberta? Why is it? Says, well, because I'm an Alberta reporter. That's my beat. So I'm not reporting on the ones all over. I'm reporting the ones in my province. But according to Global, 2 Alberta men have been charged in separate investigations, accused of threatening to kill federal politicians. And notice here if you see a trend. The RCMP Federal Policing Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, or INSET, said in a news release Monday afternoon that on May 10th it received information that a user on the social media platform X, hello Elon, had posted threats to kill Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. On June 6th, the RCMP charged, I'm not going to say his name.
No need.
But his name is 23 years old, of Calgary, with uttering threats against a person. On June 7th, in what police says was a separate investigation, INSET said it received information that a YouTube user had posted threats to kill Justin Trudeau, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Amazing how it's never people on the right who are threatened. Well, I won't say never.
Not common.
But in these cases, in the first two cases that I know of in a long time, where arrest charges have been laid for this type of thing, the threats are only coming from one side of the house. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
On June 13th, the RCMP charged another male, 67 this time, with 3 counts of uttering threats against a person. Quote, in the digital age where so many interactions occur online and are perceived to be anonymous, there is a belief that virtual actions and words do not have consequences, Inspector Matthew Johnson, acting officer in charge of the INSET Northwest region, said in a news release. When these virtual actions or words cross the boundaries of charter-protected speech and constitute criminal activity, police will investigate thoroughly to hold those responsible accountable. One of the 2 is scheduled to appear in court on Calgary today. The other one is scheduled to appear in court in Edmonton on Thursday. INSET, if you're wondering, is made up of specially trained members of the RCMP and other law enforcement and national security partners. Its mandate is to track, deter, disrupt, and prevent criminal activities of terrorist groups or individuals who pose a threat to Canada's national security. So let's hope that these types of arrests and charges are going to be much more common.
Yes, indeed.
There needs to be consequences to run in your mouth. That's all I will say. We have to talk about it. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was going to pivot for just a second.
Oh, go ahead. Just
a little lighter. Somewhat a little lighter fare. Sorry, I'm just waiting for Lola to get off of me. Lola's my dog, for those listening, in case you didn't notice. It's not a person. I have a tweet here from Ben T. Johnson. I'm going to put this on the screen because this perfectly sums up Doug Ford. Doug Ford, this is an opportunity for grocery and convenience stores to support more local businesses. My local grocery store's new display today. Coors, Bud Light, Coors Light, and in the background I see PBR. There is no local business involved in this.
And these are all the American brands.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the Blue and the Molson? And
well, Molson.
Molson Coors, yeah.
Molson Coors and Labatt Budweiser InBev.
Yes,
is where Bud Light comes into play. PBR, I believe, as well. But here's the thing. This is where I have an issue. I said, look, do we need to put beer in corner stores? Would I like to be able to just walk to the corner and get a beer? Yeah, I would. Honestly, I would. I can walk across the street to the pub and get one, but it's going to be a little more expensive because you can get a can of beer to go, right?
Right.
But I said from the get-go, and when they put a couple of years ago, the corner store had a little questionnaire. How do you feel about beer in corner stores? I said I'd be fine with it, but I want it to be Ontario craft beer only. Period. Nothing more.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now that's a grocery store, and they've been doing this, carrying the big brands for a long time. But if we're going to put it in corner stores and gas stations,
we shouldn't put it in gas stations.
They already have it in Quebec in gas stations.
I know, but we shouldn't put it in.
But it's been like that for decades, man.
They didn't want to put pot in gas stations because what if people smoke up and drive? But hey, let's put the booze there.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like you're on your way home, you stop, you get gas, you get your beer.
I know, but it's a bad message. Just like you don't sell tobacco out of pharmacies, you shouldn't be selling alcohol out of a gas station. You shouldn't be mixing alcohol and driving that close.
Well, agreed. But why do we have parking lots at bars?
I know it makes. I know it's inconsistent. It just seems to be a message we should not be sending.
So either way, if you're going to put beer in corner stores, gas stations, whichever, I insisted then, and I still do today, that it be Ontario wines, right?
Right.
And Ontario craft beer.
Right.
But that won't happen because
no.
Who's in bed with Doug? Well, Circle K, which is owned by Couche-Tard, and who's on the board of Couche-Tard? Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
Yep.
Oh, and what was the other one I discovered yesterday? Let's see if I could find it. I'm pretty sure I bookmarked it because I thought, well, that's an interesting story. Oh, there it is. I've got. Oh, that wasn't it. Where the hell did it go? I've got it right here. I'll put it on the screen and then I'll read it to you because this one stinks to high heaven. The calls are literally coming from inside the house.
Oh my God.
From Luc Lebrun, I asked experts how the LCBO's president can sit on the board of a big business lobby group that is also actively lobbying Doug Ford to privatize alcohol sales. They told me this is a clear conflict of interest and violates ethics rules. So there's a whole lot of stinky stuff going on here in the province of Ontario right now, for those of you who are not aware about our corrupt premier, Doug Ford. And go ahead, Doug, get mad at me for calling you corrupt. You are. It's on the face. You're showing it to us. This is corruption, period. The Greenbelt scandal, Ontario Place, Therm Spa, the Ontario Science Centre. We got to close it because it's dangerous. They just had a tremendous rainstorm in Toronto where there was flooding everywhere. And you know what happened at the Ontario Science Centre? Not a damn thing. Nothing.
It was fine.
Not a drop of water.
Now, where they want to put the new Ontario Science Centre, though?
Yeah, at Ontario.
That was on Lake Boulevard. Temporarily known as Lake Boulevard.
Where it will flood.
Yes.
And who owns land just north of the Science Centre?
I don't know, Mr. Grizzly. Who owns land just north of the
Doug's developer friends, whose name is escaping me at the moment. He owns all kinds of land north of the Science Centre. Wouldn't it be convenient if the Science Centre was no longer there and he could build more land because they're going to build a new subway line through there? Wouldn't it be convenient for the developer?
Wow.
We're going to give people homes. Doug, those homes that you want to give to people will cost $1 million for 400 square feet in a condo. That will then charge you $1,200 a month in condo fees to reside there. And $1,200 is actually conservative estimate. And oftentimes it's more than that.
Yep. According to the article from Press Progress, quote, the head of the LCBO is managing a public crown corporation at the same time as he sits on the board of a big business lobby group that's actively lobbying Doug Ford's government to privatize alcohol sales. George Soleas, the president and CEO of the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, a public crown corporation that generates $2.5 billion in revenue for Ontario taxpayers that Doug Ford doesn't want us to have anymore and would rather transfer directly to the pockets of his friends, also currently serves on the board of directors of the Retail Council of Canada. The Retail Council of Canada, which bills itself as, quote, the voice of retail in Canada, is actively lobbying the government of Ontario to privatize alcohol sales. The lobby group has recently been quoted in the press release issued by Doug Ford's government endorsing their plans to privatize alcohol sales. So let's see. He's the president of the Liquor Control Board of Ontario and on the board of directors of the Retail Council of Canada. And as the director of the Retail Council of Canada, he is actually lobbying the government of Ontario to privatize alcohol sales in direct conflict with his role as the president and CEO of the Liquor Control Board of Ontario that's supposed to bring money in for Ontarians so that we can spend it on our hospitals.
From inside the house.
Do you have the greasy button, Mr. Grizzly?
Let me just see here. Yeah. Matter of fact, I do.
Greasy.
According to lobbying records, the RCC, that's the Retail Council of Canada, was lobbying provincial government ministries earlier this year, quote, on the future of alcohol policy, specifically on, quote, how to increase the choice and convenience for consumers. The Retail Council of Canada's members include big corporations that would gain a substantial financial benefit from privatizing alcohol sales, including Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, and Walmart.
Including Leon's, Best Buy, Restaurant Brands International, Rexall, Costco.
I have a feeling that Rexall and Leon's won't be selling beer.
No, but the billion-dollar corporations and multinational box store chains behind the group lobbying to privatize alcohol sales. Loblaws, Walmart, Rogers, Metro, Sobeys, Costco, Rexall, RBI, Leon's, and Best Buy. Restaurant Brands International. Now, who is under their umbrella? That would be Tim Hortons.
Oh. Jeff Conacher, co-founder of the public accountability group Democracy Watch, says Soleas' role serving on the board of a big business lobbying group at the same time as he runs a public crown corporation represents, quote, a clear conflict of interest. Quote, by being on the board of the Retail Council of Canada, a lobby group for private companies that are seeking changes to laws and regulations so they can sell alcohol, Mr. Soleas is clearly in violation of the ethics law for Ontario government employees, Conacher told Press Progress. Quote, he is in violation of the prohibition on being involved in an outside activity that could conflict with his duties as the head of the LCBO or interferes with or is likely to influence or detrimentally affect his ability to perform his duties as the head of the LCBO, Conacher said, noting Soleas would also be in violation of other prohibitions if he, quote, assisted in any way in the lobbying activities of the Retail Council of Canada or, quote, participated in any of the RCC's decision concerning positions the RCC had taken on Ontario alcohol sales and regulations. And if he's done what we do know he's done, what do you think are the odds that he's done the things that we don't know for sure he's done?
Oh, I just,
Quote, the head of any public body cannot be involved in any way within a lobby group that advocates the interests of private business because it's a clear conflict of interest. J.P. Hornick, president of the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, which represents LCBO workers that recently ended a 2-week strike, said OPSEU also considers a clear conflict of interest and, quote, a betrayal of the public trust. Quote, George Soleas' conflict of interest is unconscionable, Hornick told Press Progress. Quote, when people see the connections between Doug Ford's big business buddies on the RCC and the people they appoint to run our crown corporations like the LCBO, it's a serious betrayal of the public trust in government. Crown corporations are supposed to benefit the people of Ontario, not big business CEOs. In a statement, the Crown Corporation indicated Soleas joined the Retail Lobby Group's board because the LCBO, quote, is one of the largest retailers and wholesalers of beverage alcohol in the world. In his capacity as an RCC board member, George does not receive any compensation, nor does he participate in any lobbying activities related to the modernization of the beverage alcohol marketplace, an LCBO spokesperson told Press Progress. Because the LCBO is one of the largest retailers and wholesalers of beverage alcohol in the world is not a good enough reason to join that retail lobby group, because it's still the fact how big the LCBO is in no way reduces your conflict. These two facts are completely unrelated. In his capacity as a board member, George is not receiving any compensation. That doesn't matter. You shouldn't be there. It's like Danny Smith when she says, well, the ethics commissioner said I could only stay in the box for 20 minutes, so I decided not to go at all. It's like being in the box for 20 seconds
is more than
optically is not good. It's like that the law allowed you to be there for 20 minutes in the first place was already wrong. Boo-boo kitty.
So for those of you who are curious, Restaurant Brands International, they own Burger King, Tim Hortons, Popeyes, and something I've never heard of before now, Firehouse Subs.
Nope, don't know them.
No.
Conacher says he isn't surprised by the LCBO's response, but notes this misses the point. I guess I should read the article before I break into comment, because the article's about Soleus's dual loyalties as a public servant. It doesn't matter that his role is voluntary, because as a director of the RCC, he has a legal duty to advance the interests of the RCC and its members, Conacher said. The position the RCC has taken on alcohol sales conflicts with the interests of the LCBO, so he is in a clear conflict of interest.
Clear conflict of interest.
Ontario's Integrity Commissioner has previously issued rulings forcing heads of public bodies to resign from the boards of external advocacy groups, so there's precedent, focused on the issues in the same area as their public body, noting this renders them, quote, unable to meet their fiduciary duty to act in the interests of either organization. Neither Soleus nor the Retail Council of Canada responded to multiple requests for comment from Press Progress. Really, you don't say.
Shocked, I tell you.
Yes. Soleus also provided no response to questions about whether he ever disclosed his involvement with the lobby group to Ontario's Integrity Commissioner or had it cleared under the conflict of interest rules, because of course he would. The Office of the Integrity Commissioner told Press Progress it is unable to comment on the specific cases, but confirmed ethical matters involving the LCBO's president are overseen by the Integrity Commissioner. Quote, the office does not release information about or comment on matters related to this part of the Act, said a spokesperson for the Integrity Commissioner, but noted, quote, public servants are free to release information about their efforts to comply with the obligations under the Public Service of Ontario Act. On May 20th, 2024, 4 days after Doug Ford announced this government would be speeding up plans to privatize alcohol sales, the Retail Council of Canada named Soleus Distinguished Canadian Retailer of the Year, an award honoring individuals, quote, widely respected by Canada's business community. If it wasn't enough of an incestuous circle jerk as it is. Soleus was named CEO of the LCBO in June 2016 and has served on the board of the Retail Council since May 2017. He's been there for 7 years, and we've just noticed now?
Yeah.
What else has he done?
Well, I think we're just noticing now because of what's taking place, right? It's always been a clear conflict of interest, but we didn't know. We didn't know he was there, number one, and number two, until we came to the realization that, that this is actually going to happen under Doug Ford, where they're spending $1 billion to end the contract early. Well, there's $350 million plus losses of income and blah, 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 will cost us probably $1 billion in the province of Ontario, all to put money into the pockets of his donor friends. That's all it is. That's all it is.
And the rest of this is like it's just damning. It says what the Retail Council has been up to, promoted an issue-based website promoting a policy agenda for the retail sector, then released a report in 2019 extolling the benefits of expanding privatized alcohol sales, and then December 23 publicly endorsed Doug Ford's plan to privatize alcohol sales. In March, they sent out an email newsletter featuring Soleus' photo that claimed the LCBO president was, quote, couldn't be happier that Ontario is privatizing alcohol sales. Newsletter linked to a Toronto Star interview where Soleus described the Ford government's plan as, quote, music to my ears.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is terrible. During the past, who said this? Doug Ford's plan to privatize sales of alcohol was the central issue in the workers' recently concluded strike, the first in its history, with OPSEU accusing Doug Ford of, quote, handing over more of the alcohol market to big grocers and convenience chains like Loblaws and Circle K. Quote, every big box grocery store has representatives on the RCC's board, so it's not surprising that the RCC is pushing on their behalf to privatize alcohol sales, Hornick told Press Progress. When the LCBO's revenues go into the pockets of the billionaire CEOs of these companies instead of public services, Ontarians lose most when our healthcare and education systems lose that funding. And since Doug Ford is also not directing all of the healthcare funding he's getting from Ottawa into healthcare, right? It's a double hit. During the past 7 years that Soleus has been both the president and CEO of the LCBO and an RCC board member, there has been more and more privatization of alcohol sales in Ontario. Quote, Ontarians deserve an LCBO CEO who cares about the important role the LCBO plays in our province, namely to sell alcohol in a safe and responsible manner and to generate billions of dollars in revenue that fund our public services. So, yeah, according to the confidential LCBO documents obtained by CBC News, the Public Crown Corporation is projecting that it will lose $600 million to $915 million in annual retail sales as a direct result of Ford's plan to privatize alcohol sales and an additional $400 million in lost tax revenue. He's draining our coffers of up to $1.3 billion a year.
He doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. His friends will get rich.
Yep. Jeez.
I'm here for the people. No, Doug, you're not. You're here for the rich people, the privileged people, the people who have money.
And then it says, but the way that they're presenting it to us is, no, you're not going to be losing $1.35 billion a year. You're only going to be losing $225 million per year because we hope to recoup some costs through restructuring, which never happens.
Yeah.
That's just a PR thing that they say to make the amount of money that they're pulling out of our pockets not seem so bad. I swear.
Agreed.
All right. Now, there's this one thing we have to talk about the U.S. a little bit because there's been some developments. But before we talk about it, I want to show you this one thing because this makes me happy. You know how I often say sexual repression makes people do weird shit?
I saw this the other day and I laughed for about 10 minutes straight.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. It's about what, 2 minutes and 6 seconds. We'll air the clip and then we'll discuss it on the other side when we come back. So just watch this and
hypocrisy moment.
You could say that. Here we go.
The utterly silly story of Grindr at the Republican National Convention. Every 4 years, eager Republicans travel from all over the land to meet up in person and decide the direction of their party. It's no secret that the GOP is openly hostile to the LGBTQ community. So what is a gay Republican supposed to do? Either A, live an openly gay lifestyle and face rejection by your community. B, suppress your sexuality and live an inauthentic life, turning that hate and shame inward and become a shell of a man. Or option C, every 4 years, buy a burner phone, travel to the Republican National Convention and open an anonymous account and spend the entire week making up for half a decade of lost hookups. During the 2016 convention in Cleveland, Ohio, anonymous men on the app, Grindr, looking for down-low hookups increased 165%. Nearly all these users installed the app just for the convention and deleted it immediately afterwards. It's worth noting that year the Republican platform condemned gay marriage as immoral and harmful to America, while at the same time, anywhere from 5 to 10% of the attendees were engaging in hookups. This year, the data shows that the amount of white male attendees looking for other white male attendees skyrocketed. Hundreds of new photo-less accounts have been created, and location data shows that nearly all these accounts are inside the arena. The spike was so great that Grindr crashed for a few hours in the area, and sporadic outages have occurred throughout the week. And yet the RNC speakers continue to spout ignorant rhetoric, while the men in the audience stare at their phones looking for the night's next hookup.
Well, 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 well.
And like I say often, having been gay in Ottawa for all my life before meeting my Beaver sweetie. Don't ask me how I know, but this is true.
Oh, I've had friends tell me those things. Friends in the rainbow community have said, "Oh, you have no idea, Paul." I'm like, really?
I have no idea.
I'm like, I'm curious. And I did have a friend share some names with me. He said, "I will share the names with you, but you cannot repeat it." And I said, "Okay, I promise you I won't." And I never have, and I never will. Especially
I've never
in this
said the
meeting.
names publicly.
No, and I never will.
Don't ask me how I know, but I
Because
know.
it's, well, that they have a right to privacy, just like the rest of us, right?
Yes.
But it's the hypocrisy that kills me.
Yep. So all these people living completely inauthentic lives. And
Yeah.
notice, of course, right? Like they're pictureless profiles, blank profiles, white men seeking only white men. So even in their repression, they're racist.
Yeah. Like, oh,
It's like they want to taste the rainbow so long as the rainbow is all white. Irony. So apparently there are some rumors going around that the CEO of Grindr said that, like, you know, the Republican National Convention is the Grindr Super Bowl. It sounds really good, and it actually is true, but it isn't true that the CEO of Grindr said it.
no,
According to Snopes.
but it's good.
And then yes, and then there's in Salon magazine here. According to Amanda Marcotte reporting on her on-site commentary, Trump's GOP is no country for MAGA woman.
Clearly. I got to drop a little thing on you here, and then I have to wrap up because I have to go take care of something.
Okay.
But I thought I'd drop this on you. I'm going to show you a tweet and a response. The tweet is from Ron Filipowski.
Okay.
I think I said his name correctly. J.D. Vance says that Kamala Harris is a childless cat lady, in quotations.
Yes.
Who is miserable, in quotations, with her life because she didn't have children, and that not having children means that she doesn't have, in quotations, a direct stake
Yes.
in America.
Yes.
Well, the response from Claire Blackwood, a writer, comedian,
Yes.
Beaverton, stand-up comic, a genius. These men are terrified because they know that cat ladies are perfect for the job, as we are used to dealing with little assholes who don't do shit but want to be treated like kings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, if you are a cat lady, or like this, if you're an American and you're an adult and you haven't procreated yet, you have no stake in the country.
Apparently, according to J.D. Vance. So you don't count.
Yeah. Apparently, his first speech on his own was met with such tepid applause at times. Like, apparently, there's a clip of him, like, at the end of it, there's just like one person in the whole crowd, like, sort of clapping, like, and sort of like, he's going to go the way of Jeb. It's like,
yeah.
Okay. Now people are wondering about, whether or not he's going to last a few weeks, because apparently the debut was not great. Oh, well, let's see what happens. So just a short on that, there's been a lot going on, but the short news is that it appears that Kamala Harris, somebody was asking me about the pronunciation. It's Kamala. So somebody was mentioning it, and I saw it. So Kamala Harris apparently has secured enough delegates already to get the nomination.
I did have the story on that right here. Yeah. It's from as of 3:55 a.m. According to Reuters, Kamala Harris secures enough delegates for the nomination.
So it looks like they will do a virtual meeting before to secure it, to make sure that she can get on all the ballots, and the quicker they do that. Now, that's the thing. The Republicans said that they were going to try to challenge in court, and the Democrats probably were going to go for a full open convention because Joe Manchin was itching for that. He pulled out of that a couple hours later, said, no, I'm not doing it. I don't want to run anymore. And it seems that it might have been that the Republicans threatening to try to challenge her getting on the top of the ticket made all Democrats to decide, we're just going to shut this down right now, just before you can get anything done in court. So thank you for providing the motivation, Republicans. And it also seems that the Republicans, ironically, didn't believe in Plan B, because it seems that they were generally surprised that Joe Biden pulled out. They were like, yeah, wait a minute, we need to start all over again. He made us spend all this money on all these stuff like this, and then he pulled out. That's not fair. Like, this is like, did you really have? So wait a minute, you really thought that you were going to coast on, but Biden is so old and you didn't have to do anything, like, for the whole campaign?
Yeah, I know.
That, and you didn't plan anything? Yeah. They all got caught with their pants down, it looks, the way they're reacting. So, hey, bonus. And the fact that Biden did it the day after the convention means Trump doesn't get a bump. He got bumped up.
Well, I think it's just hilarious.
It's perfect. All right, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you would like to help us, or by not missing an episode, for example, scan that QR code, and that will bring you to our pod page, sponsored by the Ray Girl. Podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver. I was going to give you the email address. Podpage.com/True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. To help us in other ways, make like Kit and Elaine and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. We're nearly 4,600 of you out so far, or 4,400. It's getting very close anyway. But thank you so very much. We really appreciate that. And if you would like to, remember to click on the buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Smash those buttons. And if you'd like to help us in other ways, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And there you can make a contribution to our tip jar, also known as the Emergency Hydration Fund, to keep us moist.
It's not a hydration fund, though, folks. It's really not. It's to keep the program on the air, because I have to pay a lot of money for bandwidth costs, for maintenance costs of hardware, software. There's software that I use to make this show run, and it all costs money. So it's not a hydration fund. I just want people to understand that, because I think sometimes people get a little bit upset. They think we're just drinking the money away. It's like, that is not the case. It really isn't. It's used to keep the show operational. For those who are just tuning in, they need to know that it's, sometimes their sense of humor can get lost in translation. And I do want people to know that I put the money towards the cost of upgrading equipment, increasing our product quality by adding lighting and sound, and there's a lot of stuff. So anyway.
Yeah. Yes, Miss Shadika, I am in a hurry today. We have a bus to catch to get to the meeting on time. And my sweetie is pressuring me. Yes, because democracy is something that you do. You can do all the usual things. Mr. Grizzly, I will let you do the words of wisdom, and I will check out for now so that we are not late. All right, kids and cubs, bye.
Take care. For words of wisdom, well, one of the things that I think is paramount is that when you are... when you find yourself in a difficult situation, remember to breathe through it. Remember to take stock in who you are, where you are, and what's going on in your life. And remember that everything will be okay. No matter what, even when things go really bad, it's still going to be okay in the end. It's getting through it, or getting over it, or going around it, or getting past it is the difficult part. But you will be okay, provided you do the things you need to do to be okay, which is to seek help. If you find yourself in a difficult situation, seek help with whomever you can. Ask for help. Don't be afraid. I know it's difficult, and I know that when I'm struggling, I can't ask for help until after I'm on the other side of it. So, kind of sounds like a hypocrite here, but I do ask for help. I just can't do it when I desperately need it, which is a strange thing. The way the brain teaches us to be self-sufficient and self-reliant, that we need to insist that we just do things and plow through and go ahead, and yet you realize you're struggling, and sometimes you feel like you're drowning, and you won't reach out for the help that you need. I'm telling you, you need to learn how to do it. I need to learn how to do it. And that's about it for today. So thanks to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss Fee Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We do appreciate each and every one of you for joining us weekday mornings around 7 a.m. Today we had a little bit of a late start because of a tech hiccup. Yesterday we had tech glitches. Today we had a hiccup, but we worked our way through it. So thanks again to everyone for being here. We do appreciate you. And I will see you soon. I do want to add that I will be, for those of you who follow the ASMR, I know I've not done anything in a while, and I am on vacation, but I am going to be popping up I'm going to pre-record some stuff and just pop it up at select times for those of you who need it. And coming this Monday, I will be back live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, Mademoiselle Fox Fun and Feminist Conversations airs every Thursday at 7 p.m. All right. Take care. Thanks for coming out. I will see you later.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.